So today I want to get into talking about primers. I'm starting out with a completely clean face. I've moisturized and my face is completely cleansed, no previous makeup. So that's really the best time when you want to apply your primer, is after your moisturizer and any serums or sunscreen that you use has had a chance to soak into your skin. So to talk a little bit about primers, I'm just learning about them still, and if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know that I did an unboxing for some Smashbox primers, and that I've since been using the Smashbox Smooth and Blur Primer, which is their silicone-based formula. It's really popular and I love how soft and silky your skin feels. It's a primer that I've used before but have gone back to recently ever since trying out a couple of the Smashbox primer products. But I noticed that with the Laura Mercier tinted moisturizer that I was wearing, that I was getting a lot of pilling, a lot of what felt like a flaking or these tiny little makeup particles drying down after I put on my tinted moisturizer and then flaking off of my face. Terrible. It looked like the makeup was skipping. It was really irregular patches that would show up. So I did a little bit of looking into it, and apparently they're silicone-based and water-based primers, and you shouldn't be using a silicone-based primer if you're using a water-based foundation, or in my case, tinted moisturizers, which have a high water content, as opposed to something like a foundation because it's a thinner, more hydrating formula. So I almost exclusively use tinted moisturizers or CC creams, and I didn't know that something like the Smashbox Smooth and Blur Primer, being silicone-based, would have that effect. So I am really, really glad that I learned that, and so I went back to Ulta and got some recommendations. I think I'll continue using the Benefit Pore Filling Primer, and then I also have a Clinique Pore Filler that's pretty similar in the formula and the texture that I'll continue using. But for my all-over face primer, I wanted something that was mattifying but not tinted in any way, that was still translucent. So what I ended up getting was the Laura Mercier Pure Canvas Primer. And this apparently is an updated, new and improved formula from the Canvas primer that they had a while ago. And I've heard really good things about this. And the reason that I chose the blurring primer as opposed to one of their hydrating or illuminating primers is that I use a lot of illuminating and hydrating products on my face after the point of applying primer. I use, like I said, tinted moisturizers, which tend to have a almost wet finish, and then I apply a radiant illuminating setting powder over that. And I use a lot of cream products as well rather than powder products. So all of that leads to a very wet finish. And so I didn't want another illuminating, hydrating product to act as my base. What I wanted to start with was a matte primer and then build up my radiant, illuminating products after that. So that's why I went with the blurring primer. So that's just something to consider because if you go into a makeup store or look online and you want a really radiant finish, maybe you struggle with some dryness in your skin, everybody's going to recommend the primers that have some wetter finish and some illumination to them. And you just have to be careful about doubling up too much because you don't want your makeup sliding off of your face. So that's why I wanted to talk about primers today, is because I'm learning and I thought that was interesting information that hopefully would benefit someone else. So I'll go ahead and swatch this on the back of my hand to show you what it looks like. So this is a very, very creamy product. It comes in this really nice packaging that's really similar to all of all of Laura Mercier's other packaging. It's pretty much the same tube, but what I like about it is it comes in 50 milliliters. It's a good quantity of primer, so you're not going to run out anytime soon. So as I smooth that into the skin, you'll see that it starts to mattify right away. But it's still got a little bit of a light finish. It's not one of those silicone-based ones you'll recognize those as being very clear, and once you kind of learn about the difference between the products, the silicone-based ones will make themselves pretty evident. So I'm really excited to try this out. So I'm gonna apply some more to the back of my hand. Again, I think that it's really nice that it comes in such great quantities. So I'm gonna start with the tiniest amount and then apply more as I build up. So going in, already you can feel the difference between water-based primers and the silicone-based ones. So even though this one is blurring, it doesn't feel too matte, to be honest. It feels pretty hydrating. It kind of feels like applying a moisturizer. So I'm interested to see how this will turn out for me. And I'm filming this in the evening, so I won't be able to do a wear test, but hopefully I'll be able to do one of those soon and maybe film one for you guys, applying makeup in the morning and then wearing it all day, and see how well the primer held up. All right, so that is it. It's a bit hard to pick up on camera, but looking at my skin, I can tell that the texture has been evened out a little bit. I went in with a very, very small amount. So if I were doing this throughout the day, or doing this prior to putting on makeup that I need to wear throughout the day, I would probably let it dry down a tiny bit and then apply some more and layer it up. But for today's purposes, I am just gonna leave it at this, and we'll see how it works with my tinted moisturizer. So I'm gonna hop off and do brows for a separate video that hopefully you guys will be able to watch too. I'll link it down on my YouTube channel. When you're watching this, you'll be able to navigate to the brows video. And then I'll do my eyes off camera and finish the look later, and I'll see you then. Okay, so this is my finished look. I know the whole face overall is pretty basic, but this is my favorite kind of makeup look. Pretty light, dewy, natural, but a little bit enhanced. So I know today I wanted to talk about primer and brows and concealer, and I hope you guys get the chance to watch all of those videos, or just whichever one you're interested in. So here at the end of it, you know, I'm really happy with how my brows turned out. The hairs don't look too defined, so I'm still working on how to achieve that model brow look, although maybe that's just not in the stars for me. For the primer, I used the Laura Mercier Pure Canvas Primer in the blurring option, and it's a silicone-free water-based primer, and I knew that that would work well with the tinted moisturizer that I used, but what I did as a preliminary step, I think kind of ruined the finish. I used this L'Oreal True Match Glotion, Illuminating Glowy Lotion, I guess. That's a natural glow enhancer, and this is in the shade Medium Glow. So I actually really like this product, and I've worn it on its own without, you know, any kind of foundation or tinted moisturizer. And I really like the kind of luminous glow, but also a little bit of color that it gives you. It's kind of if you were to mix a tinted moisturizer and a highlighter. So I really like it, but I put that on directly after my primer had dried down, and then I put my tinted moisturizer on over it, and I definitely got some of that cakiness and some flaking. So I know now to just go in with the tinted moisturizer and test out the primer that way, that would be the best way to compare the products, rather than just try to throw in another one that maybe isn't compatible with a water-based primer. I'm not sure. And then the video on the concealer, I used the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer, which is kind of a dupe for the Too Faced Born This Way, I believe. As far as concealers go, I actually don't really have any quarrels with it, but I still have that creasing and that dryness. So I won't want to say hugely disappointed, but you know, my hopes definitely weren't upheld. So I think for the price and for most people's skin type, it's probably going to be excellent. I think that the tube is only $6. and that the non-hydrating one is kind of a dupe for the Tarte Shape Tape. So I think it's definitely worth a try, probably worth your money even if it doesn't dazzle you. I probably will keep mine, or at least go back to color match with somebody else's help and try to get the right shade for me. But in my everyday routine, I don't use concealer, and I'm not sure if this has convinced me to start. So anyway, this is the finished look. I'm actually pretty happy with it, but again, this lighting is not the best, so we'll see how it looks in daylight. But thank you guys as always for watching, and if you like this format of Let's Talk About Blank, definitely let me know any products that you're interested in, or any techniques you're interested in, shades, formulas, anything like that, because I really like looking into this stuff, and there's a lot that I need to learn, so we can learn together. Again, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.